I 29 male found out my brother's wife's son is mine, not in the way you think, but I still need advice. Gonna say that there was absolutely no cheating involved at all. What happened was before my brother 27 male and his wife 28 female meet. My brother and I are half siblings, by the way. We have the same mom, just different dads, so obviously our last names are different. First did community college after high school graduation. In my second year I met Ally brother's wife. She was the roommate of one of my friend's girlfriends, so we met a couple times. We hooked up at her place once and kept it going for a few months. It wasn't anything serious, just a short fling. Then after I basically dropped off the face of the earth for a while when my dad passed away. Literally I took off and went into full-on drifter, having an existential crisis for a while. No contact with anyone when I dropped from my classes. For some years after that, my brother and me didn't have much contact except birthdays and stuff while I got my life together. We didn't have much before, but this was even less. Found out he got married a couple of years ago. With COVID last year we started trying to have better contact and be in each other's lives. That involved meeting his wife. And I find out it's Ally. They became friends after he went to the same community college I did, and that's where they got to know each other. Ally found out I was his brother only a few months ago after he showed her a recent picture of me when we were first communicating. But she waited on telling him because she needed to talk to me first. She was trying to find me for months after I left, asking friends around because she found out she was pregnant and I was the father. She showed me pictures of my son, and just that she tried hard to tell me because I had a right to know. But since I was gone she couldn't find any way to reach out. It made me feel some kind of way looking at him, but I wanted a paternity test just to be completely sure he's actually mine. Ally was completely cool about that. She understood why, since it was long time ago and we were both dumb college kids. Well, we did the test and I'm the father. I have got a kid I didn't know about because I left his pregnant 19-year-old mom to take care of him on her own. Man, and then my brother doesn't even know about this. I'm not sure how I would react, honestly. This situation is completely ducked. I don't even know what to tell him, or how to prepare for how he'll react. She thinks we should tell him together and get the whole truth out. Ally's scared to tell him too. My son was 4 when they met, but she never told my brother much about who the father was. Scared about losing my brother. Scared that I'm a father and have a son. Don't know how it'll work becoming involved in my son's life, because I definitely plan to. And how that would affect their marriage. Is there really any good way to talk to my brother about it? At least in a way where it doesn't hurt our relationship too badly or their marriage. Update. Kind of got busy, so didn't have the time to post until now. I've read all your comments in my last post. Meant a lot to have that support, and I decided to follow some of your advice. For starters, on the not being present when Ally told my brother the truth. You're right, that's for them to talk between each other and not my business to be there when she broke the news. He went directly to my house after to ask me if it's true. Don't know everything she told him, but still said my part of how it all happened. Obviously it was super overwhelming for him. I couldn't tell how much of it was confusion or just pissed off. My brother didn't even say anything when he left. Only thing he said was he needed time away. Ally said he wasn't at their place either. That same week they called me to come over and the three of us had a long talk. There was the chance to apologize for not telling him sooner before getting a paternity test. My brother asked me what my plans are now that I know I'm my son's father. If that means I'd like to be involved. I told him yes. Even if he doesn't know me, he's my son, and if he'd want that, I'd like to get to know him. Whatever time they are comfortable letting him spend with me. We agreed to set something up between me and him. They were planning on telling him that night, and then they got back to me. Kid was curious about meeting me, so we did it that weekend. At the last minute my brother opted out of being at the house when it happened. I'll be honest, it was super awkward. I tried hard not to go in with any expectations, but part of you wants it to go well, you know. It was crazy seeing him regardless, you know. Part of me still didn't want to believe he's really my kid. He's extremely extroverted though, which was a nice surprise. But the complete opposite of me. I'm the nervous one and he's over here, asking me if I've already watched F9 or what games do I like to play. Overall it went well. Second meeting much more comfortable. I took him out for a ride so we could hit the pier, since he says that's where he loves to go. It was a really great time. With my son we're slowly getting to be more comfortable. He never knew anything about his dad, so he asks me lots of stuff whenever we hang out. Honestly, he's such a smart kid. The more I like him, the more it makes me sad we couldn't do this before. I've seen him several times already. Getting along great so far, so I'm hopeful for what that'll mean in the future. As for things with my brother, well, it's still not so good. He's not around on days I come over or when I'm gonna pick my son up. We haven't talked much, but it's tense when we do. He's not mad or me. Doesn't blame me either, because none of us ever had a clue about this connection. Still, it's a lot for all of us to get used to. My brother's still different with me, and he doesn't want to know about how my meetings go with my son. Things kind of took a not so good turn with them too. Don't know the full thing, only what he's told me, and I don't ask Ally. All I know is she's asked him for some time out of the house so they can have some space away. No idea if that means there's been fighting or what, but he says they're hitting a rough patch, and he's not sure about where that's gonna go. I don't either, but it hasn't been that long since this all came out, so it'll be a while before things settle. It sucks and wish it didn't have to happen. For now I'm keeping my focus on my son and let them handle their personal business. I am glad you're getting to know your son, but I feel really bad for your brother. He's been this boy's father figure since he was 4 years old. After 6 years he probably thought of him as his son. Not only does the kid meet his real dad, but it's his own brother. That's a lot. Not sure it was really approached as empathetically as it could have been. Clearly your brother feels he's being replaced after doing the hard work for however long you were gone, and doesn't sound as if either of you empathized much with his position. Nor is anyone doing so now, as it seems more important for you to build something here. I'm not surprised he's reacting as he is, and I doubt he'll stay in your life. Yikes, I feel the worst for your brother that was this kid's dad until you stepped in. Can't imagine how he feels having his whole life imploded. I doubt you guys will ever be okay again. Honestly, I think the relationship between Ally and his brother is done for. Ally's story doesn't really add up to me, but even if she did find out a few months ago that you were the father of her son and her husband's brother, she should have told him on the spot, not wait until you came back and then go behind your brother's back and discuss it with you first. I don't see how their relationship would survive that. I feel sorry for your brother, since he hasn't done anything wrong here. Second story. I gifted my husband a threesome, now I am regretting it. My husband Quinn, 35 male, and I, 32 female, have been happily married for 5 years. On our 5th anniversary I gifted him a threesome with my old college roommate Rose, 32 female, who lives 6 hours away from our city. I planned it 3 months prior and had thought of the best female for the role. Rose is still single, lives far, vaccinated, and had only met my husband once. Fits the criteria. I messaged her and asked if she's cool with it, and she said yes right away. She said she doesn't mind the long drive, as she also wants to visit some old friends in our city, and besides my husband is hot according to her, which I totally agree. On our anniversary night we didn't hold a party, just dinner at a restaurant. I told my husband my gift to him. He was shocked at first, then laughed and told me it was a funny joke, but when I showed him a picture of Rose in a naughty nurse outfit on our bed, he finally realized I wasn't joking. He asked me if I am 100% sure about it during our drive home. I said it's fine and that Rose is cool and I want him to have a good time and also to spice up our marriage. So yes, we did it. Rose stayed the following day after brunch and left to see some friends and went home 2 days after. Now I found out that Rose accepted a job offer in the same company where my husband works. She said she's already looking at apartments in our neighborhood, which was fine with me. I was actually happy for her. But when she joked about doing it again, I kind of felt something in my gut. I am not sure if I am threatened or worried she might try to sleep with my husband. I don't really know. Can anyone please give me some advice? I think at this point you just need to talk to both of them, maybe separately. Say to Rose that because you're in the slightly unusual situation of being friends who have had a threesome, you want to set some boundaries. Tell her, respectfully, that you had a great time but it was a one-time thing that isn't going to happen again, and that you and your husband are still in a monogamous relationship. It might not be that she wants to steal your husband. It could be that she's just hoping for the threesome to become a regular occurrence. Tell your husband the same thing. You can let him know that you don't suspect him of doing anything wrong. You just want to set some clear boundaries in what could potentially be a gray area. In my opinion, this is why it's so important to discuss this at length before having the threesome. These kinds of things can absolutely wreck a relationship. I know surprising him for a special event sounds fun and hot, but if you don't have ground rules that both partners agree to, it can really mess things up. If you had talked about it before, you could have clearly communicated that it's a one-time thing, and that any further contact between them is cheating. Third story. My 56 female dying ex-husband, 60 male, told me he's leaving everything to his current wife and nothing to our 2 daughters, 19 female and 21 female. I don't know how or when to tell them about this. My ex-husband left the family close to 9 years ago in order to marry his current wife, 31 female, and they now have a 7-year-old son together. I did not ever explicitly tell my daughters that my ex-husband had cheated, but being subtle and taking things slow has never been my ex's strong suit. So when he married his wife a month after our divorce was finalized and had been living with her long before, there was very little anybody could do to put a positive spin on the situation. While I was able to provide a roof over our daughters' heads by balancing 2 part-time jobs, our lifestyle still dropped drastically, while my ex-husband's, especially outwardly, skyrocketed. My daughters couldn't completely hide their resentment at both of us for the situation, so it wasn't just directed at my ex, but regardless continued to be respectful towards my ex and whatever my ex-husband wanted to do. Even if they hated the activity he had planned, they would eagerly acquiesce to it if it meant they'd be able to spend an afternoon with their dad. Their dad was the spoiling parent when we were married, but after our divorce, He complained incessantly about being asked to chip in extra for their tutoring and extracurricular expenses, so both developed a lot of anxiety around money and started never asking for any money and taking odd jobs around their school and neighborhood in order to pay for what they wanted. Their stepmother would always be hypersensitive to them wearing even mid-range branded clothes to their house, despite them saving up for it all, and also despite their stepmother buying into the large designer logo culture and never wearing the same thing twice. They would always not be invited on any family-related event, and have had to watch their dad take their half-brother on lavish vacations all around the world. Even when their dad got lots of free extra passes to Disneyland once, he decided to let the extra passes go to waste and only use it on his son and wife. Both my kids refused to ask their dad for any money for college. My older daughter is a senior at college and has taken out a lot in loans, but also works a practically full-time job to help pay bills. My younger daughter passed upstate school for community college. They have tiptoed around their dad and stepmom's often mercurial tempers and both always practically burst with happiness, to the point of near tears, at any small gesture from their dad, whether it is presents or him showing up to something. Obviously their dad means a lot to them, and I feel like they think that slowly but steadily they are making progress and their careful approach to him is paying off. However, recently my ex-husband has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. He could never give up his smoking habit and he doesn't have much time left. My older daughter drove 3 hours to and from her summer semester at college in order to see him. Both my kids have had to deal with their stepmother telling them they don't want to be disturbed and never returning their calls. However, they keep trying to get in quality time with their dad. The other day, I was surprised to get a call from my ex-husband. He told me that I can rest assured that he feels bad about this, but that he made his vows to his wife that he would always take care of, and he always intended to stand by those vows, and that it was his obligation to take care of his wife while I was around to take care of our daughters. He said his wife has no work history except briefly as a receptionist at an interior design firm when she was 20 and never attended college, and that is because she has devoted all the past 9 years to him and their son. He said that if it makes our daughters feel better, he was only leaving a trust fund to their son for around 5% of the estate, and the other 95% of the estate is going to his wife. And that he's sure his wife would be nice enough to help out her son's half-siblings if it comes to that point in the future. And by estate, he also means a lot of the heirlooms given to him by his mom, who never knew my daughter's half-brother or stepmom, and created sentimental memories surrounding the heirlooms with my daughters. He told me that he finalized this will around 1.5 years ago, and he says he didn't know how to communicate his decision to our daughters and asked me to do it, and that he wanted to spend his final days in harmony with everybody. He seems to also be mentally justifying this decision by assuming that his widow will keep in touch with my daughters even though she is only barely polite to them when she's around them, and that when his widow dies, she'll be compassionate in how she writes out her estate. What do I do? I know both my daughters will be devastated to hear about what will be the ultimate representation of their dad. Despite their efforts, seeing them as little more than an afterthought, they will also be especially hurt by being denied access to things that remind them of their grandmother. I am also very upset because his last will and testament will probably not mention my daughters except to cut them out of it. I don't know whether to try to convince their stepmother to hand over at least heirlooms that mean nothing to her first, or to convince their father to try to at least to single out our daughters for some written tribute to what they meant to him, at least an acknowledgement of how hard they tried to stay close to him. Both options have a high possibility of causing drama with their stepmom, and I don't want her to react by possibly gatekeeping access to my ex. I also don't know when to tell my daughters about this. I feel they would resent me if they find out that I knew and kept it from them for a period of time before telling them, but I also know they would likely not be able to hold back from telling their dad how much he has hurt them, especially my older daughter. If I tell them after their dad dies and before his will is read, I might be able to reduce the chance of both of them possibly regretting what they say to their dying father, but I would feel very guilty. Don't let him off the hook. It seems like you have been covering for him for a very long time. He needs to step up and tell his daughters this. Edit to add: by waiting until after their dad has passed, you are taking away the chance for them to say what they need to their father. It will more likely than not build resentment towards both you and him. They are adults. They deserve to know and have a chance to speak their piece on the matter. He didn't know how to communicate his decision to our daughters and asked me to do it. Yeah, he's full of shit. He knows it's a hurtful thing to do and wants to avoid the consequences. Tell him to shove it and he can tell them himself, or let his wife deal with the fallout when he dies. Don't get involved. I would tell them that their father has something to say to them and ask them to contact him. It's not your job to take flack for his horrible decisions, and that he would even ask is disgusting. He doesn't get to live in peace when making shitty decisions. Dying is not an excuse. He knows his wife will do nothing for them as evidenced by her behavior so far, and is convincing himself otherwise to assuage his guilt. Hit like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to our channel.